All right, so is it recording? Perfect. So today we're going to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about managed services, proactive managed services specifically, and honestly, what our offering is around managed services. So let me get that up. Let me know when everybody can see my screen, or Rick, when you can see it.
I can see it.
Perfect. So, managed services means a lot of different things to a lot of people. So we're going to talk about what our offering is, and we call that CTP 24/7. I'll talk a little bit about, about generally what managed services is, or what managed services is, as well as what proactive support is, and then how in CTP 24/7 brings all that together. So CTP 24/7 is the brand that we've put around our managed services offering. It is Covenant, it's technology partners, and then knowing that those two different things, professional services versus managed services, really run separately, but also work together, and the fact that we are a 24/7 shop inside managed services as opposed to professional services. I'm not sure how much we've gotten to chat in the past, Rick, but and I'm not sure who else is on just yet, but I'm Corey VanDyke, so I manage our managed services practice within Covenant. We have a couple of different social media areas or sites you can go to, Twitter and Instagram. This email address here, I think I've exchanged emails with most of you folks, and this just auto forwards to my Covenant account, so it's the same account. Little about me, I was with Covenant, over a decade ago, and then I took a hiatus and went to Microsoft for a while and ran support for several large organizations, customers of Microsoft. And then now I'm back and loving it. So we're working through continuing to extend our managed services offering to everybody beyond what we traditionally supported in the past. So just so everybody's on the same page, these are some managed services definitions you'll hear throughout this presentation, as well as what you might hear out in the world when you talk about managed services. So you hear break fix a lot versus managed services. You'll hear RMM a lot, which is just remote monitoring and management. So typically there's a set of tools that you use to accomplish that. MSP for managed service provider. One that's not here that's starting to trend is MSSP, which is managed service security provider. Don't hear this too often, but PSA for professional services automation. So really that's just covering your ticketing, dispatching, configuration, escalation, and billing. For us, most of that falls under the ITIL processes, which is an industry standard. Customer premises equipment. So, printers, routers, servers, things like that, things that are on premise. The NOC, you've probably heard that quite a bit. So Network Operations Center, hardware as a service, software as a service, and then you hear this a lot because it's a growing trend, which we'll cover later on in this, but SMB, so small, medium businesses, or small, medium business. So generically, what is managed services? So really, it's a term that's used for third-party monitoring and maintaining computers, networks, and software. Doesn't matter if the hardware's in-house, in the cloud, or the hardware wouldn't be in the cloud, but services in the cloud, or if you have a separate location that you're housing your equipment. Managed services can be provided amongst all of that, and now that's even spreading farther to personal devices, other devices that are on premise. So managed services covers a broad area, a broad topic. The reactive IT services model. So this is what most organizations are currently used to. Don't necessarily call this managed services, but it is definitely a part of it. But basically, that model covers an IT issues detected. You reach out to your support. You reach your support. You describe the issue. They try to resolve it via email, phone, support, or by email, phone. If they can't get it done there, typically somebody will come on site and try to resolve it at that point. That's when you fall into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, which we'll talk about later, and it's just a different level of expertise you have. You've probably experienced some of this with Microsoft, with other large providers, AWS, Cisco, etc. Then the issue is properly diagnosed, and if you have to have somebody come on site, and then the issue is resolved. So that's the typical reactive support. We call that break fix. You don't do anything until an issue happens, and then you report it. Then you get into the proactive services model, and that's using that RMM an RMM tool that we talked about earlier, where we're constantly monitoring your environment and your assets, and alerts can be set up. The alerts can go to the client, as well as the alerts can go to the service provider, support provider. There's a centralized dashboard, that allows us to not only remotely log in and diagnose and fix, but also we can use that to get to the right technician. That right technician can then get in and fix the issue potentially remotely. Otherwise, we go back to the other model, and somebody can come out on site. So that's typically what you see in a proactive model at a high level. Also, the types of devices that can be covered under that. I had to add the anything smart recently, because that's true. Anything smart can be monitored or can report into an environment, or report into a dashboard, or send alerts. Servers, desktops, firewalls, surge protectors, monitoring on websites, software systems, networks, mobile devices, printers, copiers, all of the above. And there's probably a whole host of other things that we could add to this list, but it just gives you an idea of the types of things that we can monitor, or that can be monitored. With those alerts can be customized as well if you're using a good RMM tool with managed services. Alert to uptime, storage, connectivity, can alert you about backups if a backup has failed, security, vulnerabilities, things like that, as well as patches. And then using that same tool, that's when we can, or using a tool as part of that, that's when patch management can be done scheduled, or it can be scheduled, it can be executed. Same thing with the backups, and quite frequently now managed services, we're dealing with spam as well. So all of those things can be included. But what is CTP247 in all of this? So at a high level, CTP247 is a full service managed services organization under Covenant Technology Partners. So really, we're taking that reactive model, we're taking that and the proactive model, and something we'll cover later on, pulling those two together, and also being a professional services organization, I think is a differentiator in all of this, because we're not just a managed services provider. We build the software, we build the applications, and we have a lot deeper insight to those things that we're then going to support. We can cover tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 proactively, as well as break fix. But it also, includes health assessments, it includes coaching, it includes chalk talks, all kinds of various engagements that we can get into. If anybody's familiar in Microsoft, we also use a CSP program to bundle hosting solutions, billing, and support into one single point of contact through Microsoft as well. And we like to become just like our professional services side, but we like to become an integrated member of our clients' teams. Our goal is to understand the best we can the business goals, so that way we can support that business and support IT to support that business, if that makes sense. Also, we work as a single point of contact, even when that support extends outside of Microsoft. If you know anything about Covenant, we're a pretty deep Microsoft partner. But as we'll cover later on, you don't always just have Microsoft in your IT environments. So through our network of partners, we can cover all of that, but still act as that single point of contact, which I think is extremely important, because any organization that comes in and says they're an expert at all the technology is it runs some risks there. The trend right now in managed services is focus, is industry specific. So we like to partner with those folks that focus on the other things that we don't cover, and then through that network, we can be that single point of contact so that you can get the service that you need. Our methodology goes at a high level as follows. So anytime we work with an organization, and a good managed services provider should be doing this, is getting that current state assessment. You need to know what it is you're going to support, right? So really do that requirements gathering, like to develop a strategic roadmap if we can, and then review that roadmap. So that this is highly important. Underneath the business requirements, we're going to talk about the goals and objectives, all of the initiatives you have planned for that year, for that quarter, for that month, or anything that's on your mind there, the critical processes that are in play to accomplish those things, and then your current challenges. Underneath those processes, the IT support for those processes. How do you support it today, and how can we then help support that? The biggest thing that you'll hear later on as well is your internal IT needs to focus on your business. The objective for us is to support that IT group, so that way you can focus on your business. Then, under the current IT challenges, so addressing those gaps that you have, or figuring out what those gaps are and addressing those gaps, working with you on your roadmap, and then the budget that gets there. So good managed services will allow you to have a predictive budget, predictive spend in managed services and IT. The strategic roadmap. So with that should be updated regularly. I have down here quarterly plans. I have some organizations that like to review that monthly because they're moving so quick, but at the very least quarterly. And then each year, it's a living document, but each year do a refresh on that. If we're looking out 3-5 years for your roadmap, some of those objectives may change after we get through, the first year or the second year. This is one of my favorite slides that I put in a lot of different presentations that I've done. This kind of describes where the different levels of support. Most of the organizations that I initially come into are really in that orange area, that reactive area. Some are in the chaotic area. We want to be in that IT makes my business better area, but starting in that proactive section where we start to monitor, we start to see trends, we start to implement change management, and we start to mature those things, that can move us on up through that value area where the IT can focus on their business, where we're the true partner with that organization. So through service level agreements, or through capacity planning, and et cetera, that helps us get to that value area. So all those things are important. We're always going to have those chaotic moments simply when something does break, but the more proactive we are, the more we can limit those, and that helps keep costs predictable, et cetera. So as long as, adding value there by fixing those pains and then continuing to implement those processes and track those trends and being proactive, this is something that will get to that value area pretty quickly. So where's the managed services industry heading, right? So Gartner, in 2015, something I read, they forecasted the RMM, or the remote monitoring and management, to be growing at plus 30% compound annual growth rate through 2018. And here we are in 2018. Because of that, the significant pricing pressure, really it's brought the cost of those tools to do RMM down quite a bit. So it allows managed services providers such as us to be able to put monitoring agents on more things inside an organization and be able to offer that service and make it available to the SMBs out there. Also through that, SMBs are our fastest growing market, simply because as they mature, they find more and more of a need for managed services in some capacity, whether it is just a break fix situation that they want. They want to get a retainer of hours, or they want that proactive monitoring, or they want to go even further and just outsource all of the management of that so they can focus on their business completely to a managed services provider. But that is the fastest growing market across the globe right now, and I'm seeing that as well. Insight Research Group, they predict that managed services would experience a double-digit growth through the next 4 years. Back in 2016, we've far surpassed that already. Things like Azure and Office 365 are causing that to grow a lot faster than we expected. In the U.S. market, in 2016, in the U.S. market, 2010 we had $29 billion in revenue in this market, and they expected it to be $50 billion by 2016. And I can tell you that last time I looked, we're well above 70 to even 80 billion in 2018 by now. So if you look down under the other section here for Vision Gain, the global market, they expected it to reach 86 billion by 2016. But 86 globally, and we're around that 80 mark now in the U.S. alone. So this industry is growing extremely fast, and a lot of that has to do with what the CEO of MSP Alliance said. And basically, he's saying here that providers need to be able to change their services to adjust the shifting demands. Things like Office 365 and Azure are shifting quite rapidly, and that is causing this market to grow quite rapidly. So the things to consider if you're considering managed services. So again, what's right for you? So an organization that allows you to focus on your mission at your business and not IT. Industry standard service level agreements, and the ability to modify those agreements if you're in a situation like some financial organizations or healthcare organizations that require much faster response times. Predictable pricing. So that's again what we were talking about earlier. When you get into monthly agreements and you have a scope of things that you are managing that allows you to be predictable with your costs that you have to report up to your CIOs. User preferences. So again, I talked about the retainer hours. I talked about the proactive side of it. So are you looking for that personal touch, or do you just want to be able to call somebody when something's broken? I would much prefer giving that personal touch. You're always going to have the ability to reach out when something does break, but that personal touch allows us to continue to learn more about your business so we can support you much better. And also being able to track those trends and be proactive, so that way we can continue to help you grow as well. Some of the key benefits that I see, or that we see in managed services, again, reducing costs, including those traditional fees, the hardware, IT operations. As you move forward in managed services, you should start to see, again, very predictable costs. I can't repeat that enough. Very repeatable costs or predictable costs throughout the years. Easing adoption of new business processes. That is something that managed services should be able to help out with. Whether we're talking about escalation processes, we're talking about support incident processes, etc. So putting those processes in place and then easing those adoptions inside your organization. Increasing levels of support and network availability without additional staff. A lot of organizations, especially those SMBs, have minimal staff, or they have staff that gets caught working late hours on weekends, things like that. So why not let a good managed services provider that wants to be your partner, such as CTP247, have that responsibility? That's what they're there for. Again, making the IT budget more stable and predictable. Everything kind of falls back to that. Provide access to the latest technology. So through partnerships like what we have with Microsoft, we can take a look at some of those the new technology that's coming out and see if that's right for your business. Provide access to an enhanced skill base. Maybe you don't have a DBA. Maybe you need a DBA of 2 days a week. Things like that helps you get some of those folks that you might not have on staff today. Changing business conditions. Again, mergers, growth, things like that. That's something that managed services should be able to scale to. And again, I'll repeat, enables the IT group to focus on the core business. So those are some of the key benefits of managed services that we believe CTP247 believes in. Three things to consider. So I did a talk on this, I want to say almost 2 years ago. And this is any organization looking to go to managed services. These are the three things I narrowed down that I think you should be concerned with, you should be looking into. So more planning and less reacting. So the more a managed service provider plans, trains, stays up to date with the latest technology, stays up to date with the latest the latest trends, and the more proactive they are, the less reacting in that pain chart I showed you earlier, the less pain we'll have, because we won't have to react all the time. We'll be prepared. We'll be proactive. We'll be understanding the trends that are happening. We'll be understanding the trends that are happening inside your organization and the trends that are happening inside the vendors and the products that you use. That is extremely important. The next two are similar or balance each other off, but focus. I talked about this earlier. The biggest trend right now is our support providers and service providers that focus in certain technologies or certain industries. That is extremely important. We cannot be all things to all people, but as you'll see in the next one, through our partnerships, we can provide support for most of those things and provide that single point of contact. So that way you don't have to look through your Rolodex and try to figure out who you got to call for this issue or who you got to call for that issue. You want to be able to reach out to one organization or one person and be able to submit that case, and then let that managed service provider get the person and escalate to the people that need to have that case assigned to them. Relationships. So this goes to those partnerships. So good managed service providers will continue to stay competitive simply because they partner with the right people. They stay up on the current trends that are happening, and they make partnerships in those technologies that they don't necessarily have underneath their own organization. Also, constantly going to conferences, meeting with peers, meeting with software vendors, distributors, all of those types of things, so we keep up with those trends and we understand the types of software that's going into your organization. We're a Microsoft shop mainly, so we don't necessarily have SAP focus inside our organization, but through our partnerships we can provide that tier 2, tier 3 potential support that you may need. So I can't say enough about those relationships. If we want to stay in a box and not make those relationships, I don't think we'll be able to support you well. So some of what we manage, I'm not going to read all of these, but look, pointing out things, monitoring across many different things, patching, various health assessments. We do, on our professional side, we do health assessments in organizations, but after things are turned over into support, we need to continue to do those health assessments on a regular basis, because your environments change. If you have a SharePoint environment and it's being used every single day and it's growing, those things are changing on a very regular basis. Disaster recovery, workflows, different kinds of planning, strategic planning, operation planning, process planning. Again, I talked about earlier about needing people part-time. If you need a DBA a couple of days a week, if you need a CIO type, a couple of days a week, those things we can help with. Governance assessments, those are important, not just in SharePoint, but across many different things. All things Azure, again with the CSP program as well through Microsoft, being able to bring that billing and support under one roof as well. And then again, I'll say much, much more through our partnerships. So our goal, again, at a very high level, our goal is to understand the business goals and then how IT supports those goals. So it's especially important for us to make IT look good, and we only can do that if we understand the actual business goals, so how IT is going to support those. Provide that proactive assistance to assist IT in delivering those goals. Understanding your current state through that assessment we talked about earlier, and then your future state, and continuing to update that plan. And then finally, just becoming an integrated member of your team. I always like to say a seat on your steering committee. But being an integrated member of your team, and it doesn't have to be just one person, but being out there on a regular basis, being invited to meetings so we can be a fly on the wall and understand things that you guys are planning on doing, and we can continue to update those that strategy or update your future state goals. That is especially important. Additional things you should consider as well. So with us, one-stop shop, looking at somebody who can provide those professional services, looking at somebody who then can also provide that proactive and break-fix support. That's Premier support if you're familiar with Microsoft, without the high cost that Premier support brings along with it. License and billing support when you're doing things through the CSP program. And then, like I always try to say, why not let the experts that build it, again, on our professional services side, then also support it when they transition over to managed services. So again, I'm Corey VanDyke, the practice manager for CTP247 at Covenant. I'd like to open this up to any questions.
Hey Corey, so if I'm hearing this right, you're what I had originally visualized as your monitoring managed service around SharePoint is now covering pretty much the entire environment?
We can. So that's the unique thing about Covenant. It's an offering we can put out there, and it's also an offering that it just depends on the client, right? Some clients only want us to monitor SharePoint. Some clients want us to monitor their whole organization, or all of their servers, all of their environments. And then again, through using partners, if we have an organization, just hypothetically, if we have an organization that has a lot of VMware, or they have a lot of Zen servers, a lot of Cisco, we can monitor those things, and through our partners be able to support those things.
Interesting. So yeah, this is a new service. From what I understand about Covenant, this is pretty exciting to hear.
Yeah, so and I'm familiar with Paragon, so this is definitely something I've been wanting to talk to you about as well. So, yeah. So no, this is I think something that's going to help us be able to service our clients on a much deeper level. And then, as you know, with projects have an end date. Managed services doesn't leave.
Exactly.
So that's where I want to be.
Okay, great. No, I really appreciate this. This was all very good. Thank you.
Welcome. Absolutely. All right. I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, y'all have a great day, and I guess I'll see you in a couple weeks here, won't I?
Yes, I believe so.
We're looking forward to having you at the summit.
Yes, I am looking forward to that. I actually have at least one person coming into town and join me, my boss, and I believe our sales guy who covers this area is also going to be in for that.
Wonderful. We're very excited about it.
Okay. Well, y'all have a great rest of the day, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Take care, Rick.
Bye, everyone.